Hi, my friends. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Makayla Davis, an evolutionary and predictive astrologer, and we're talking about the solar eclipse in Aquarius on February 17th in a couple of days. I'm going to jump right into this and take care of all any announcements at the end so you can just enjoy the astrology. So, just to begin, eclipses tend to feel, from my experience, very accelerated times, challenging times, sometimes just a lot going on, a lot of energy could feel, especially because this one's an Aquarius, sped up. And I find that eclipse points, which we'll experience a few times in a year, usually two in the beginning of the year, two in the end of the year, depends, are times when fate is presented to us, right? I think that we always have moments of free will, but this is where realignments come in, right? Or adjustments, major adjustments into our lives come in. Of course, some charts will be affected more than others, depending on what kind of placements that you have. But overall, this one is very big for all of us because we have Pluto in Aquarius now. So Pluto in Aquarius is kind of like a backdrop for our next 20-year cycle. And of course, as you probably know, we have a Saturn-Neptune conjunction on the 20th. Also, a new cycle beginning in our lives in Aries and the part of Aries in our chart. So this eclipse cycle, I think, is just super important. And I find that these readjustments or realignments around eclipses are always for the better. So some may feel like a reckoning, and some may be, oh, I already know this, I'm already on this path, and it's just kind of like an extra push forward, right? And that last 10 minutes of the mile that you need to go, and you get that jolt of energy going forward. Regardless, eclipses are intense. So if you're feeling that, that's okay. I suggest people not feel like they need to rush anything necessarily. However, this eclipse does ask for changes to be made in the life. Maybe that's big, maybe that's small, maybe that's difficult for you, maybe that's not. Depends where you are at in this journey. But this is an eclipse that really is asking for change. And we are in a time where many of us need to make these adjustments and changes in our life. I am not a stranger to this at all. So let me bring up the chart so we can look at what I'm talking about. Hopefully you see the screen, and it'll put me in the corner. So I've got a lot going on the chart, as you can see. I was just looking at the asteroids because I thought it was important, and I really wanted to dig into some of these layers here. But yeah, so this is a new moon eclipse. So what's happening is this is when the sun and the moon come together and they start a new cycle in our lives at 28 degrees of Aquarius. New moons in eclipse season tend to take about 6 months, I would say, for any of the newness to unfold or the changes that will be made or are asked to be made will unfold, right? 6 month time frame. So it's not like the 17th is going to hit and you could expect like some major reckoning, although maybe. It's typically about 6 months. This is a sign that is asking us to A, become a voice of authority for our own life, because Mars is signified under this, and the need for innovation in an area of your life, right? So a new beginning that can look maybe a little rebellious to the patterns that you have been engaging previously up until now. Maybe this looks like something you haven't done before, a decision that you're needing to make now that maybe other people weren't expecting you to make. Maybe it's a plot twist in your own life journey. Maybe there's a decision that you're wanting to make, and you were talking about doing one thing and all of a sudden you're beelining and making a different one because this is coming up for you, right? Maybe you're changing your mind. Maybe you're having a sudden revelation around something, a sudden idea. The downloads and the information, the ideas, the feelings that can erupt under this energy are brilliant usually. They're Aquarian. They are changing the pattern for you for better, so you can have more freedom and more movement and more space in your life. So, because it's a new moon, the new moon nature, I recommend making some time for solitude to kind of get quiet in your environment, in your inner world, so you can listen to your intuition. You can listen to these awakenings or these personal inventions for yourself that might come in now, where you can make a necessary change. You can make a step forward. Now, this eclipse is squaring the planet Uranus, which is a very big deal, right? You can see it's 1 degree off. And Mars, which is associated in this eclipse stellium right here, and I will talk about Vesta as well, are all in what we call a stellium of planets, squaring this Uranus, which is finishing up its cycle in Taurus. Essentially, Uranus and Taurus was here to break down the patterns where values did not resonate for us on a collective scale, but also in our personal lives. So for the last 8 years, many of us is probably having all of these ups and downs experiences when it comes to, what do we consider a value and importance to us when we are looking at, our sense of resources and morals and how we provide, how we relate to one another. These things can fall under this umbrella where there was a lot of up and downs, changes happening, especially when it comes to, relationships and I think finances and also our food, our physical health, maybe even connecting to the voice and how we want to speak because Taurus rules over the throat. Standing up for our voice, standing up for ourselves. Well, the square is in a position from the sun and moon to Uranus in a first quarter square is what we will call. So this is a crisis and action square. So whatever change comes up or whatever tension that there might be some tension in your life where there's a change that needs to be made. This might come up. It might feel difficult, right? It might feel like you have some fear behind this change that needs to be made. Maybe you need to move out of country. Maybe you need to move your home. Maybe you need to leave a relationship. Maybe you need to leave a job. Maybe you need to quit eating chips. Maybe you need to get into the gym more. Maybe you need to make time for meditation and personal space. Maybe you need to sell your house. Maybe you need to take out a loan to buy a property that you need. Like whatever it is, like all of our lives are so different, right? There might be something coming up that is this change. It represents change, a step forward in a new direction for you to have a more authentic life, for you to have a more liberated sense of your being in your own personal life. But that change, whatever that might be, could feel scary. It could feel like you might be facing rejection from the exterior world. What if they don't like my decision? What if they don't accept this new person of me that I am becoming, that I am, that I always was, that maybe I'm ready to show myself now? All right, just as an example. Maybe I'm afraid of judgment or being exiled for speaking my mind, for saying no, right? The fear can manifest itself in so many ways. One of the things that I think is related to overall the year of 2026, but especially this eclipse cycle that is beginning, which will move more into Aquarius and Leo up until 2028, is that the solar plexus in our bodies now are being activated. And that is the seat of our personal power. So when you have an eclipse, a new moon that is being activated in Aquarius Leo axis, this is about you stepping into your authenticness, your personal power, and being able to feel like you can be the voice for yourself, that you can create that momentum and that change. And it might be painful, and this might feel hard, and this might feel scary, and you might feel fear because of this square that's happening. But that square is here. There's a purpose for the square to be here because what it's showing you is a black and white version of an old part of yourself that does not feel authentic, or an old part of your life that does not feel like it fits in anymore with the new version that is emerging or trying to emerge from this seed that will be planted. It's most likely this is probably an ongoing thing. Maybe some of you, this might be a completely new reckoning and revolutionary point in your life. But for many of you, you kind of have had previews of this coming in. But here is the moment in change now. Here's what this set of eclipses, when we begin to move into that reckoning of our life. These flashes of moments that are lightning like, that are asking for those change and that movement. And this is signified too because there is a closing out happening. Mars and a balsamic phase to this new moon. Mars is like, oh, there is a cycle closing that was once a part of my authentic self and my identity. Mars and Aquarius. Once I had fuel, once I had fire for this, but I don't feel that fuel and fire for said area of life anymore. And there's a rebirth happening. There's a newness coming in, but I must close out this chapter. I must say goodbye to this part of my identity, this part of my life, this part of this thing that once held on. I was holding on to the structure and it served its purpose and I'm thankful for it. But here we're meeting that square, that first quarter square, with this new seed being planted and this need for this authentic expression to come out. We're meeting this at two tectonic plates. My old self and the new self, well, one has to give. So this eclipse is asking you, which one are you going to give into? Not to get all preachery, but if you do stay in the old, it's going to be more painful. So this is why I'm like giving space over right now so you can kind of process and kind of think here. Mars is conjunct Vesta. Okay, but if you look at this, Mars is now crossed over Vesta, right? Vesta, as an asteroid, will represent devotion, sacred devotion in some area of our life, right? So she's traveling through Aquarius. What are you devoting for and change in your life? Or what are you devoting to have this or rebellion of some sort, right? And not rebellion, like not, some people don't vibe with that word, right? But where can there be something that is just different than what you've been doing so that you can have something better? Vesta can also bring about things that we're devoted to that bring us personal fulfillment. And sometimes that involves sacrifice. It might require you sacrifice an old pattern or an old belief structure that you once had. It might ask you to sacrifice something that was once something you put a lot of time and effort building and creating. But going through this archetype that is really about change and working within a system to create change to improve it, with Mars there, where does that life force energy, right? This Martian energy, this planet that wants us to kind of rise up and create some action in our life, where does that need that fire, that breath going into for that innovation, to give you that push to get through that square, right? To give you that sense of, I can do this, because we're reaching into that solar plexus, which is, I can. The affirmation, right, is I can do this. I have enough willpower. I have enough authority in my life. I have enough belief in my life that I can make this change. It might be hard. It might be uncomfortable at times, but I can do that. And this might even be an innovation of something that is already working. Maybe you have something that you're like, could do this a little better. And so we become a little stagnant because it's working. But maybe there's a need to breathe in some fresh air into this, to innovate something, to reach more people, Aquarius, to affect more lives, to create more change in your life, in your community, in larger scales, depends, how you're being affected here. But it's very likely that this square would provoke some element of fear and resistance, right? So if you feel that and you're like, oh God, Makayla said this is going to feel like resistance. And I feel this today. And I feel this week. And I feel this over the next 6 months, right? Lean into that. That's okay. That's normal. That's a part of change. Anything we do that's different or breaking the pattern or just left field and we're used to going right, it's new. You can go and take the same route to work every single day because you know that route. And then the minute that the road is blocked off or it's closed down and you got to go a way that you never went before, you're like, oh my God, am I going to make it on time? Do I know where I'm going? Do I use the GPS? Oh, I think I know this place. I think I can get there. Right? It's a little uncomfortable. It just brings up all these fears, all these unknowns because we're not used to knowing what is on that other side. When we go down the same way, we go every day to work, right? We know we're going to get there. We know we're going to pass this coffee shop on the left. We're going to pass like there's 7 trees on the right. But the minute that road is closed down and we have to go a different way, we're full of all these new things and sudden surprises. Maybe we find a better coffee shop. Maybe it becomes a quicker route. You don't know. That's kind of the exciting part of Aquarius, is that the change is full of all these possibilities. The other thing I wanted to point out, because of course we want to look at the node, because with an eclipse, that means that the new moon or full moon, which we'll have a couple weeks later, we'll talk about that later, is around the nodes of fate. So of course I would not be doing a good job unless I brought the nodes of fate up, and we've got Venus and Mercury straddling the nodes of fate. We've got Venus and Mercury on the North Node in Pisces. And the ruler of Pisces, which is Neptune, is now here in Aries. So we're going to talk about Pisces and Aries. And the co-ruler of Aquarius would be Saturn. It's Aquarius. For my traditional astrologers, I'm an evolutionary. I believe that it's more Uranian Aquarius, but I can see Saturn's association as well, right? So Saturn is also here with Neptune, right? And those are two very important planets for the year of 2026. But Venus on the North Node here is asking you to surrender, let go, learn the process of surrender and let go to start the new, right? To go into the new energy. It can be very paradoxical and it can be kind of hard, especially for new astrologers, like, oh, Venus on the North Node. Like, what do you mean? Because I have to go into the North Node, but Venus in the Pisces, which is an archetype about letting go and releasing and surrender and a culmination of things. It's like, don't need to make it that complicated for yourself. You can just know that the Venus here is okay. I had my values, right? And we talked about the Uranus breaking up our values. We had things at one point were of importance to us and they served a purpose. But what is it that you can release or surrender to and let go so you can allow some innovation and change for this rebirth to come in? The Pisces North Node, it really wants us to start leaning into clearing out some energy so we can allow the fulfillment of new things to come in so we can give into this cycle of evolution that's happening within our lives, right? This cycle of rebirth that's happening because we've got all these new planets going into Aries and we have all this new energy starting in 2026 and we got these eclipses just reckoning with that. And with Venus, with Pallas here, you know, Pallas as an asteroid from my astrological studies is often about something we need to take a stand for. She does represent having a strategy about making movement and going about something in your life and having a plan because she, in mythology, Pallas Athena was very strategic and very smart, right? She was a warrior. And she was born from her father's head, from Zeus's head. But she wasn't really acknowledged for her intelligence and her brilliance because she was a woman. So she actually represents something we need to integrate into ourselves and take a stand for. You know, a part of ourselves that we might divorce from ourselves because of what we've been told, maybe from childhood or from parents or from a significant other at one point. Oh, you're hard to love, for instance, right? What if someone told you that you were hard to love and you almost adopted that as a belief? What is there in your life that maybe is not your own belief? And you should take a stand for yourself. You should let that go and be like, no, I am not hard to love, actually. I'm amazing to love. I have so much to give. What can you integrate now that you could devote to yourself with Pallas on Venus as a new value and integrate that into the North Node so that you can let go of something and allow that newness to come in. And Mercury is here too. This is all about processing our thoughts and our and opinions and leaving some behind and also immersing ourselves in other ones that actually bring you those Pisces quality, right? Which is love, the highest vibration of love and support, universal support, the support of Mother Nature and the universe and the womb herself, being able to integrate so we can live a more compassionate and empathetic life for ourselves and for other people and allow ourselves to flow into something new. Flow into that new energy, learn to receive the things that we deserve, break away from the old patterns of, you know, truths, beliefs, ideologies, behaviors, you know, foundations, upbringing, religions, whatever it have, break away from things that are keeping us from actually having a true awakening to the next version or the higher version of our life. The South Node ruler is with the North Node, which would be called an exception to the rule in EA. But it's just an extra highlight that with the South Node, it's usually we take in things and we're reliving things that come up from the past. That could be early childhood, that could be even ancestral. Um, coming up in here for filtration. Filtration here with the Virgo Pisces axis, right? Be discerning through the South Node of Virgo, processing and filtering into that North Node with the Mercury over here. Being discerning about what you're going to now allow to flood into you, your life, your thoughts, your opinions, your ideas, your choices, because choice is so big under this eclipse because of the square action and the need to plant a new seed and with Mars on the eclipse. What are we filtering out in our life so that we can make a new choice going forward? Okay. And also the ruler of this eclipse in Aries. Let's go over here. On the backdrop, Saturn and Neptune together, which deserves its own separate video. And I have a video out on Neptune transits. Please, I suggest you go watch that and engage that fully. You can apply it to your natal placement of Neptune and the now transiting section. And also for Saturn, there has to be a breath of new life coming in, new choices for yourself. And Aries is all about a sense of agency, the courage and the bravery, and the backdrop of your life to make these choices. It might be instinctual, but as an Aries person, myself, if it excites you, if it gets you feeling like there's a possibility, feeling like there's a sense of freedom and independence and courage, and it feels good, like exciting good, maybe even slightly dangerous, right? Like, oh my God, I know this is kind of crazy and scary, but man, am I excited because it could mean so many other possibilities. And that stuff lights you up. And if you can think about things that might light you up, that's being supportive here. That's being supportive. Look at the sextile of Pluto to the Neptune and Saturn, and on the other side, the sextile from that Uranus, which is connected to that eclipse. It's the change, which is the tough from the square, the crisis in action, but it's the support on the backdrop for really the new energy and the new things that are happening, right? That a sextile feels like a nudging, an annoying thing. It's annoying, it's tapping, it's knocking, because it's like, I support you, but like I'm not gonna let it go until you do that thing. And that's why these energies can slip away from us, because we can get annoyed and just like kind of want to, push it away like a mosquito, right? Oh, but when it's something that's so important, that's supposed to create change in your life, you really don't want to ignore that nudging, that intuitive push or that excitement or that knowing that, hey, like what I used to do helped me and it got me to this point, and we're not going to not acknowledge that or not have gratitude for that, but it could be new. It could be better. It could be more free. So for some of us, it might look erratic on the outside. And that's what I'm talking about with that square is like, for some of you, you might care. And like, why is my question? That square, it might look erratic on the outside. It might look crazy, but it's your life. It's your choices. And at the end of the day, you have to live with it. So what do you want to live with? The what if, the possibilities, or maybe just trying it out and just seeing what happens. I'm gonna stop my sharing here. So if you want to backtrack, obviously the energy is different because we have other planets in different signs now. But if you want to backtrack to these years, you will have similar themes from February of 2017 to August of 2018. Maybe just journal, sit down. What happened? What did I do? Maybe go back into your phone. That's a good way I do it. I'm like, oh, what did I do? Because you take pictures, what was I doing? And then go back even more to another set in the same Aquarius Leo axis from February of 2008 to August of 2009. And it might give you some food for thought about what was happening in your life, what similar themes might be repeating for you again here. And this is just an opportunity to make new choices in old circumstances. So I would really love your feedback if you are listening to this. What helped? What didn't? How could I make my videos better for you? Did this land for you? Did you understand it? Would you like me to flesh things more out? Would you like me to talk less? I don't know. Let me know. And also, if you want to share anything about where this is coming up for you, maybe what your sun, moon, rising placements are, if you'd actually like me in future videos to break it down for the rising signs, I'd love your feedback as I'm trying to, find my way through the YouTube world and for my listeners, help you guys more out. Um, Please find me on social media. I just put a new fun dating series out. You might have caught that. I just thought it was a great way to help people relate to one another and their sun, moon, rising sign archetypes. And also, of course, I'm available for astrology readings. You can find me at Embodi by Mac. That's Embodi by Mac.com. You can book right off my website, or you can send me an email or a message on one of the social media platforms and see if I can help you. Look at the year ahead. Maybe you want to look at how this eclipse cycle is affecting you and how you can use it to the best with your chart. So your right timing and choices and direction and so forth. So anyways, I really appreciate if you stayed till the end. Make sure you give me a like and a subscribe if you haven't already, and have a great eclipse.